Okay, so this is the situation at the end of the game turn. This is the end of turn 2, 15th. Things of note. Gerhard started his move towards CCC, which are up that road. But in passing, obviously started to engage this unit of CCA. Destructive air barrage. No loss. Impressive die rolling by the Germans. We were very fortunate. We didn't increase fatigue, but we then failed. We only got a partial anyway, and they failed on the second activation, so they didn't move too far. Stankoff moved up a little bit and put in an attack against the unit here, which you can actually see it's been thrown off the hilltop, making up for the terrible rolling here. I think we rolled an 11 or a 12 here, so it was a retreat, which is definitely bad news for that American unit. Hello, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yep, he's not quite in command range at the moment. And the only other unit obviously is Gerhard, which is in Spätlad, just off map here, and I've chosen not to move him, essentially on the basis that, as I surmised from the American overview, this is really initially about the 3 objectives, so City Buzid, Kearns Crossroads and Spätlad. I think we have to look at those 3 first. So rather than bud off to capture something else, I've left Ream still fresh, still in place, still holding that. Interesting as well that actually when you reflect on it, when you review it, if you look at your command radiuses on your HQs, it's very hard for you to cover more than one objective, certainly in the areas that we are at the moment. So if you kind of add that together, it means that you probably have to defeat this unit completely to free up possibly 2 camp groups. Then you'd have 1 camp group holding off somebody, and one of these can then go and grab an additional victory point. That's what I'm thinking. Okay, so this is the February 16, turn 3. A turn of mixed fortunes, you'd have to say. You can kind of see the CCA still trapped within the German camp groups. This turn weather stayed fine, but the air roll was a bit of a disaster for the Americans. They've got 0 air points, whereas the Germans have got 5, so quite an advantage there. On the upside, the Americans did actually roll some replacements, so we've put back in place this unit of CCA, so it's a unit up. The downside was obviously the Germans won initiative, so the Germans are going to take the activation because they really want to get stuck in really to that CCA again. So we're going to roll now for Schutz's camp group, which is the one which is technically behind CCA. I've just realised I need to knock all the HQs back to the right side, so I'll do that in a second. So he is still fresh. He still has optimal range on his combat trains. So really, the only thing against him is the game turn snafu, which is a -2. It is throughout this scenario, to be fair. But he would get +1 for fresh, so it's down 1. Okay, so February 16, 1943. In terms of weather, the weather stayed fine. In terms of air points, the Germans rolled 5, the Americans rolled 0. However, on the upside for the Americans, they did roll some AV replacements. So we've replaced a unit on top of the HQ, which you can see there, an armor unit. But unfortunately, initiative went the way of the Germans, so the Germans are ready to activate their first Kampfgruppe, which will be shoot the Deutsches Afrika Korps Kampfgruppe, which is currently effectively in behind CCA. In terms of snafu roll, we'll be looking at a +1 for fresh, +1 for optimal distance on the combat trains, and then -2, which is the game snafu roll. So overall, a straight roll. You see they rolled a 6. A 6 is a partial, which only gives them 1. Which is not really a problem for them, because obviously that CC are kind of grouped up around there, if you like. So I think what we would do, I'm just going to knock this up onto here. We'd have to place an objective marker first of all. In fact, I'm going to just knock that fatigue marker out to one side. Well, that single objective marker will take in everything we need it to. I'm just going to flip him around, just because he should only be that way around. And I think what we would do is we would start off with the German tanks. We'd move forward for 1, and then obviously we would have a stopping action. 6 to 7. Looking at the combat strength and the AR, it would be 6 to 7. Now we do have support, so I'm thinking support, sorry, is only for targets. So yes, there's no modifier. So we're just looking at a roll +1 basically. Germans roll an 8, +1's a 9. Nine gives us target loss and retreat. And unfortunately, target loss is actually a kill, because again, that tank had only just been reformed, and now it's gone again. I'm going to move the tanks in, because I can do both. I can shoot or I can assist. Okay, we've got another armored unit there. So another stopping action, and that's a dual unit. But there is the implication there straight away for the combat command's headquarters, which effectively is hit by those German tanks. I'm going to roll again on that chart, and I bet I haven't got that chart to hand. Alright, I've rolled 2. Now I have a feeling that a 2 is a soft jump, using the optional rules for hard and soft jumps. Yeah, it is, it's a soft jump. What that means is we can kind of ignore the fact that that's been overrun at the minute, and we can try and resolve that to our advantage later. So I'm just going to move CC out of the way for temporarily. And I think what we'll do is we'll throw in another attack, but this will be with a +1. And that'll go against the Shermans in the other hex. Well, that's a 10 roll plus a 1's an 11, which is the same result basically. So he's going to go down to a 1. So that's his second fire action. So that's him. That's him done. I'm just debating. I'm thinking what I might well do is I might well call in the air and just do a destructive barrage against that unit there, because we could use 3 air points. It's a mechanized unit, so it's not a hard target. It's not in terrain, it's not in a city, so we're looking for 3s basically. And we certainly counted for those, so we can kind of take this guy down from a 5 down to a 2. And I think what I would then do is I'd actually assault with the 104 for 1, for 2, for 4. And he can put in an attack there. There's no prepared defense. Well, the attacking unit we can see, and the assisting unit is the armor unit. There's no attacker's barrage because we used it for destructive barrage. Net combat table modifier. So the net combat table modifier is 3 to 3 because they're German motorized infantry is a 3, and the combination of the AR and the strength of that mech inf is 3. Actually, no, tell a lie, it's only the ARs, so it's 2 against 3, so the Germans have a net +1, +2 for the assist. There's no double tap. Not sure, I just noticed a modifier at the end from non-support red AV and open hex. I'm just wondering, it is a red AV, it is an open hex, and the unit isn't a support unit. So I'm thinking that modifier needs to be added, but I'm not totally understanding what that actually represents. What we'll do is we'll just quickly roll anyway. We had a net +2. It looks like we needed it there because that's only 2, 4, or 6. Yeah, I'm going to have to check this because a 6 gives us an attacker loss of 1 on its own, whereas an 8, if it gets the extra additional +2, we also get a situational retreat and traffic. So let's have a little look at that, I think. Okay, I think what I missed there was that the net modifiers are obviously added to each individual AR prior, and I actually didn't notice that there was a dual or infantry modifier as well as the red +2, which makes a lot more sense now that I look at it. So what that means is the end result, since we rolled a 4, we ended up with a German modifier of +2, so we've got 6, and 6 is lose a step. So that German unit there will now go down to a 5. Quickly find a marker for that. So that didn't quite go to plan. Okay, so our follow-up comes from this unit, for 1 for 2, and he's going to put his attack in there. Yep, we've got a better unit underneath, so we're going to have 3 to 3. We will fire off a support to do a suppression mission, and the other modifiers will be the Germans will have +1 for support, so there are 4. I do this with some dice just to make this a bit simpler, right? So the Germans will have a 3 up to a 4 for the support, 5 for an assist, 7 for a suppression mission. So I can't do it with the dice because we just run out of counters there. The Americans will have 3 not supported, no suppression, no prepared defense, +1 for 2 units, +2 for a red AV and an open hex. So that's +3 + 3 is 6. So you got a net +1. And we rolled a 7, +1's an 8. An 8 is an A1, but a D situational and traffic. Okay, and here we can see the end piece of that combat. The 2 units of the CCA have retreated off to the south, I think it is. And I've repositioned the HQ to kind of give it some sort of form and semblance. And that would be the end of the first activation for shoot. So now you would get a chance to roll for a second activation. Wow. He rolls a 5, which gives him a chance at a second activation. I've just realised what I needed to do was roll for fatigue. And he rolled a 6 for fatigue. He cares not a jot. All good on the German side at the moment. All the die rolls are running well. So we'll do a second activation for shoot. Okay, we'll roll for that second activation for shoot camp group. You can kind of see I've flipped some of the units, just I think that's what we're going to do, and tidied up in general. Yeah, let's see what we get. Okay, interesting, we rolled a 7. We are still fresh, so we've got +1. We do still have optimal distance to the combat train, so you have +2, but we also have 2 down for our game turn snafu modifier. So it's a straight roll, and a 7 is a pass. So that gives us the chance again to deploy double objectives if we wanted to. The trick here is going to be, obviously the unit that we would quite like to remove is the mech infantry. But if we place the double tap on the mech infantry, it's going to be quite hard to pin them down, and then also if it's put on there, that would be outside. So there's no reason, I suppose, why we can't put it on the recon screen for the moment. Not sure how that'll function going forward, but let's put it there to begin with, and then let's go from there. First thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to use this unit again to hit the mech infantry, and again I'll use the artillery point, which is back in place for the second activation, to provide a suppression mission once again. So in terms of modifiers, I think we've been here before, but the Germans have +1 for support, +2 for suppression, +3 for a double objective zone, sorry, that should be +4 in total. So 4 and 4 is 8. The Americans are starting with 3, but they have a dual unit which actually has no modifiers. So they start out with a 3, so +5. Wow, 10 scored, +5 is a 13 plus, which is a D2 defender retreat. But actually, yep, he was down to his last 2. So that will be the end of that CCA unit, and that unit will move in to there. I just need to see what this terrain is under here. We've got clear there, we've got tracks there. Yeah, so we could actually move 1, 2, and we'll shoot at the or an engagement against the mech. So the base for us, for the Germans, is an 8. The base for the Americans is a 3. So we've got a +5, +6 for the double objective. So +6. That takes us above a 9 again, so that's target loss and retreat. Yep, so he's got 1 step left. 2, 3, we'll take him round to there. Yeah, I just sort of tempted to move him on into the hex, so I think I will. I'll just move him on into the hex. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. He would still actually be in the screen of that unit, which is an extra movement point, so actually you can't strictly get to there. And that leaves me with 1 unit of shoot left. I'm thinking that would cost as well, wouldn't it? 1, 2, 3. We'll just pull him back a bit to cover that. Actually, if we, I guess that's the thing. There's no hard. It's the start of his activation. No, we've inflicted enough pain on the Americans for this turn. I think we'll close it off at that point. So that would be second activation. That's camp group shoot finished. Play would pass back to the Americans.